Hey, you made it. You realized I was filming, hey? Good day. Welcome to Great White Retro. I'm Gord Fessick. This is my wife's annoying cat, Star. And our topic today is one of Daryl Kranz's Commodore 128s. He gifted this to me with the original intent of having it as a giveaway machine, so we might have one of those. But first, I need to spruce it up. I've got Nostalgia Land from Zerko Promotions coming up on March 21st. That's 2 weeks away. And the machine I have right now is not in the best physical shape. The keyboard is way too bright, and the label was ruined, if you remember, from Extreme Retrobright II. So we'll take a look at the condition of this machine, see if we can get it working. If necessary, we will do Extreme Retrobright 33 1/3 to get this thing ready for showtime. Let's get her done.
Oh, beauty, go. Okay.
So something very interesting about this particular 128. Oh, come on, we can zoom in on that, right? That might be my imagination, but that suspiciously looks like a Canadian Tire logo. Quite fascinating to see from a computer from the United States. Okay, let's get this opened up. This is missing the back cover, but I have seen manuals in worse condition than this. And I must have packed that cable because that's from 8-Bit Classics. I recognize that cable type. Power supply looks like it's intact. This poor guy has seen better days. Yeah, bounce. It's missing its label, actually, entirely, and it's missing the restore key. I have one of these. The keycaps at least look like they could stand some retrobrighting. Yeah, this case probably does not need any retrobrighting. All it needs is a thorough scrub.
All things considered, this machine isn't bad, but let's power it on, see if we get any life out of it without even hooking it up to a screen. Oh boy, that power light's not good. We might have a dead short here somewhere. Okay, let's try my other power supply, my one with the self-resetting fuse. That too is not working. Better take a look inside, see what's going on. It's also missing a couple of case screws.
This has been messed with. Oh man, yeah. This has definitely been messed with. Wonder if any of those ICs have shorted out now. At least the VDC seems to be put in the correct orientation. And the VIC-2. Let's see if it lights up at all now. Okay, what have we got? Anything? Okay, now we've got some life. I went and grabbed my CGA monitor for this one because that was the most convenient screen I had at the time. Oh, that is very encouraging. Okay. We're at least booting up to basic. I'm going to go grab the 64 diagnostics. That's the only thing I happen to have handy right now. And I'll grab another screen to check out this against. It seems to think the two CIA chips are bad, but as you can see on the bottom right, they are keeping good time. So it's not so bad. The first couple attempts, the color RAM would fail and it would lock up the test. Now the use report would come up as bad, but subsequent tests say that the use report is okay for some reason. I have to do a bit of reading because there's no static RAM on here for the color RAM. I'm guessing that the VIC-2E has the color RAM integrated. I'm going to double check that. Yep, color RAM is working. The first couple of times the color RAM would cause it to lock up, like I said, and at one point it would say color RAM AK, so no, definitely the color RAM was not AK. All right, let's button up the mainboard assembly and get it out of its case.
Alright, let's get this apart. I've already taken the motherboard and RF shield out of here. Let's get this keyboard off, being sure to save that power LED and that little pressure-fitting plastic. It's not held in place with any adhesive. I start taking this keyboard apart, being careful with the space bar, the return key, the keypad 0, and keypad enter keys, because these all have stabilizers on them. I don't want to lose those, and I don't want to break them like I broke the last one. There we go, out we come. Now enjoy a super speed keyboard disassembly montage. There we go, getting those keys out of there gently. There are these tiny little screws. Alright, being careful not to lose those plungers. I do have some spare plungers just in case, but as you can see I already missed one. Oh, there it is. Okay. Getting these all put away. The tiny springs are for the locking keys. I'll have to remember to put those back when I'm done. Alright, time to give these keys a thorough scrub. Like I've done before, I will let them soak in dish soap and I'll wipe them off later on. In the meantime, I'll work on other bits and pieces. Again, this case isn't bad, but I noticed something very odd on both of the edges of the case that I will show you in just a bit. Right now there's just leftover adhesive from that label and other gunk stuck to it. It was difficult to see, but when I went to scrub it, yeah, it was there. There we go, give it a good shake off. I've already repositioned that label, as you can see there. That's not bad, really. Bit of baking soda to give the retrobrighting process a proper chance. Now, I wasn't going to retrobright this, but, well, take a look at what I found. Time to show you what I'm struggling with here. There are these spots. One is here, and one is here. I hope it's possible to see this on camera. There's also a bit of a yellow streak that follows the seam of the case. In fact, it's fairly well pronounced here. It matches the same color as this. I'll try some alcohol to remove that, and if that doesn't work, I'll hope that the retrobrighting does it. While this case is not severely yellowed, I think I'm going to run it through a process anyway, simply because of some of this yellow splotching in spots. Let's get some alcohol on there to get the last bit of adhesive off of this spot where the label belongs. The alcohol did not make a difference removing those yellow spots on the ends of the computer case. So I think this will stand a mild retrobright process. And then we're going to try some clear coating, but with a different type of clear coat. I'm going to try a satin clear coat this time to hopefully get a better match to the original case's gloss. In the meantime, let's wipe up all of these keys. After I give them a wipe, I will rinse them again, and I'll rinse them again after that, just to make sure these things are clean. Because these keys are slightly yellowed, and I want to retrobright those too. This key holder was put together by JTH3D. It's a modification of a version already found on Thingiverse, except the openings are slightly wider, just so that these keys fit better. I also have the original one that I had made, but these keys fit awfully tight, and also the stalks tend to snap off. Fortunately, I can just pull them off without damaging the key. Let's get with the Retrobright. I think I'm going to stick with the peroxide paste, or the salon cream rather. It's just more convenient, and while it is a bigger mess to clean up, it's a lot more convenient. I also figured out that my slop sink downstairs will work better if my UV lights are also covered with an insulator. That means it's going to get pretty toasty inside there using like a sauna almost effect. But I found that the heat adds just enough of a positive impact to speed up this process. So with the keys cooking downstairs, I get the case ready. Again, I'm not going to keep it in the UV lights for very long, but I do want to kind of touch it up, just so that it is consistent and that I have a better chance of getting those yellow marks off of the ends of the case. I cover up the ends to make sure we don't get air leakage. There's the blanket that I have over there. It does get toasty in there, but the lights do have some air above the heat sinks that are on top of it. So I don't believe I'm going to damage them, but the heat inside the slop sink does help with this process. I think the keys are done, and it was only a few hours. I'm going to keep them in the key holders because I'm also going to clear coat these. I'm going to get another one of these green key holders from JTH3D. I think he did a better job. I do appreciate the friend who 3D printed the first set of key holders, but really, if you're doing a 128, you need 2 of these for all of the keys. There we go, we get the air compressor to get the majority of the moisture, and I leave these to dry overnight.
Okay, let's show you what I did to the main board on here. I added heat sinks to the VDC, the VIC-2E, SID, and the 8502 CPU, so that I can get some heat sinking going, since the original metal housing busted off of here and caused some short circuits in here. I also went and replaced the 128 firmware with Jiffy DOS firmware, and I replaced the C64 mode firmware also with Jiffy DOS firmware. I'm not taking my 1571 floppy drive with me. I'm going to bring my SD to IEC, so I want Jiffy DOS working. As for the other chips that require heat sinking, I'm going to replace the original heatsink. We'll put some weight down on that for the moment. That way the other chips will be cooled off. I still have the original firmware ROMs here, so if it really comes down to it, I can replace them back. I also had to do a little bit of magic to make these EPROMs work, because I only had 64 kilobyte EPROMs, or 27512s, and what normally goes in here are the equivalents of 27 or 23 128s, which are 16K. I'll explain how I solved that problem in a sidebar.
A Commodore 128 uses several 16 kilobyte ROMs or read-only memory chips. U35 is used for the 128 in CPM mode, and U32 is used for the C64 mode. But I only had 64 kilobyte EPROMs, which hold 4 times as much data. If I drop a 64 kilobyte EPROM in the place of a 16 kilobyte ROM, there's a 3 in 4 chance of the computer reading the wrong data. A simple workaround is just to store the same data 4 times. A more permanent workaround would involve modifying the Commodore 128 or using a ROM adapter.
But since this thing was complaining about the user port, let's see if we can give the user port a bit of a workout. Jiffy DOS on the 128 will blank the VIC-2E, I guess so it can run in 2 megahertz mode for that. I'll use the D71 image. Now, I tried launching Loader 128, that didn't work, so I'm going to launch Boot 128. Seems to be working just fine. The Super Nintendo gamepad also seems to be working. That's this guy. The SID sounds a little bit muffled. I might put my spare ARM SID in here. But hey, let's give this a shot. It took a couple of control taps to get it to respond, but it's responding now. Just fine. Well, seems to be working just fine. Yeah, whatever. Go 64. Oh, that's right. I got Commodore 64 robots. This also seems to work just fine. All right. I'd say that works.
So this was in the Retrobright tank during my board testing, and let's see if those yellow marks came off of here. The case won't be significantly brighter, but that wasn't the point. Already, I think these marks are gone. That is much better. I wonder how we got such a precise bit of yellowing on this machine. Very interesting. We will leave this to dry for a day, and then we go outside to clear coat. It was really important to leave them to fully dry for a day. Last time I was too anxious to get this going, and I ruined a set of Commodore 16 keys. Basically, the clear coat really dulled the color and caused the keycap text to blend in.
1 week later.
But after letting that dry off, I come back to reassembling this keyboard. We need a full week for the clear coat to fully adhere to plastic, so I came back to this after a week. The C128 has a lot of little keys. I used a couple of Tupperware containers there while I was putting the plungers in, because that let me hang the keyboard off of that without having any of the plunger holes blocked. And then I was able to get a few screws in. After that, the locking key mechanisms just snap into place without any extra tools. Let's get the top row of keys. The top row of keys generally don't need retrobrighting. Now that those are in, let's get our supported keys with the stabilizers installed one by one. And now enjoy a superhuman keyboard reassembly speed.
And the Commodore key. And I did not lose a single spring key or key plunger. Thank goodness. So I think the satin finish is a much closer match to the original keyboard's glossiness. So I think I'll stick with that for my clear coating from this point forward. And you should be able to tell that the spare keyboard is a bit yellowed yet, but the Retrobrighted one is in much better shape.
Okay, let's get some heatsink compound on the chips that will make contact with the RF shield. I ran out of the small, tiny heatsinks, otherwise I might not even have bothered with the RF shield. But still. And I've got that video section RF shield permanently screwed to the rest of it. Let's get the keyboard installed using that pressure-fitted mount for the power LED. Okay. I ended up using PC case screws on the bottom 3 because I needed those for the exterior of the case. Now, about that label. JTH3D produced a couple of labels. One of them was like an original color. One of them tries to match the case a bit. I ended up going with the gray one. So I'll use some contact cement just like I did on the little 16. But before we show you what happened here, we'll come back to this and we'll show you what it looked like before. No power and slightly yellowed spots. And how it looks after. Let's get that label on there. And now I can say this computer is a Commodore 128.
We managed to get this Commodore 128 ready in time for Nostalgia Land coming up on March 21st. That is happening at the St. Charles Fairgrounds in St. Charles, Illinois, just west of Chicago. It's run by Zerko Promotions, and they'll also be at Collectorabilia this spring up at the Resh Expo at April 4th. I'll publish a full schedule on the community tab on my channel in a couple of days. So I hope to see you guys there. We've got a lot going on here. We've got more adventures with the little 16 to hopefully finish up. We've got that VIC-20 to fix up. And if you hadn't noticed, my Apple Watch and other bits and bobs from up north finally came through. I've got a short story to tell about my adventures with United Parcel Service and United States Customs. More on that in a future episode. Until then, thanks again to Zerko Enterprises for hosting me, and until we see you at Nostalgia Land, good day.